So again, my name is Craig Harmlin. I work in the Office of International Affairs at UC Merced in the study abroad area. And I'd like to pass it to Natalie, who will take it over from here. I'll mute myself and focus on the waiting room and questions.
Thanks, Craig, and thanks so much for hosting this week and hosting us as part of the week. My name is Natalie Spencer. I am the Senior Outreach and Selection Officer for the Critical Language Scholarship Program. I work out of Washington, D.C., so I'm on the East Coast joining you all today from my home, which is actually in Silver Spring, Maryland. So the CLS program is sponsored by the U.S. Department of State. All of the funding comes from the U.S. government, and the program is supported in its implementation by American Councils. So I'm an employee of American Councils, and we hold the grant from the Department of State to host the CLS program. So CLS, if you're not familiar with kind of the basics, is a summer-only study abroad program. It's for U.S. college and university students in all fields of study, so you don't have to be a language major, a global studies major. We're really looking for students in all different fields who are interested in learning a critical language. The program is fully funded by the U.S. government, so it's intended to be of no cost to our participants. The only thing we really can't provide is U.S. passport, but everything else is included in the program. And I'll go over what all of that is. And the program is really designed to prepare U.S. students to compete in a globalized workforce using these languages, again, across all fields that contribute to our U.S. national security and economic prosperity and our ability to collaborate with really key stakeholders around the world. So the 15 languages that the Critical Language Scholarship covers are listed here on this slide. For 9 of those 15, you don't have to have any previous language study, so you can apply as an absolute beginner for any of those that are listed on the left side of this slide. For Arabic, Korean, Portuguese, and Russian, you need to have 1 year of previous study by the time you go on the program. So that means that, for example, if you were enrolled in like an Arabic 101 class right now, and you were going to take Arabic 102 or some equivalent in the spring, you would be eligible for that 1 year of study by summer 2021, which is when the program starts. So the year of experience or the 2 years of experience that are required for Chinese and Japanese are based on the level that you'll be at when you begin the program, which would be next summer. You don't have to do that through formal study if your campus does not have a Korean program or a strong Japanese program. You're in a good place to be in the UC system because there are more language classes. But if you don't have access to these classes or you haven't taken formal study, but you do have the equivalent knowledge of a student who has taken that 1 or 2 years, then you can meet that proficiency level. It's more about meeting that minimum speaking threshold and not as much about having it on your transcript. So there's many ways to meet those requirements, and it's just by the time you begin the program. So hopefully that's all clear. So again, the program, the most important or exciting thing about it is that it is fully funded. That covers domestic travel to Washington, D.C. for a pre-departure orientation, round-trip international airfare. Once you're in D.C., we fly you overseas with your cohort. And then if a visa is required for the site that we're sending you to, we cover all applicable visa fees. Housing and meals are covered as part of the scholarship. If, for example, all of your meals aren't covered by the institution you're studying at, we give you a small stipend to cover those meals. And you also receive a small stipend for just kind of everyday living expenses once you're in the country. Classroom instruction is included, so you're in class about 20 hours a week, and all of that instructional time, you're not paying tuition, that's all included. We do some cultural programming and group trips. So we would be paying for your travel as a group if you're going somewhere for an overnight trip on the weekend, if you're going to visit local museums or doing some cultural activities like that is all included in the scholarship. You're not expected to pay any money out of pocket for those required group activities. And then we also do provide undergraduate academic credit through Bryn Mawr College. So Bryn Mawr College is a private liberal arts school in the Northeast. They are accredited, and you get the credit itself on a transcript that you can then work with your registrar to receive credit at your own institution for. So our partner institutions overseas every summer host up to 30 CLS students. Not all of our institutes are that large, but the largest number at any one site is 30 students. And then the classes are broken down even smaller than that. You would be in class with no more than 6 other students. So it's really small and intensive experience. There's really no place to hide while you're getting those language gains. Everyone's in class for 20 hours a week. All of the cultural activities and local excursions are a required part of the program. And then there's some weekend overnight group trips. So all of that said, there's not a lot of free time on the program. It really is for the type of student who wants to go, be immersed in that culture, really studying the language, and is excited by the prospect of coming away after a summer with the equivalent of 1 year of academic study in that language. So that transcripted credit that I spoke about, it's the equivalent of taking 2 semesters, or if you're on the quarter system, I'm not sure how the credits work, but it's like taking a full year of a full-time language class. And that's the credit equivalent. So everything's designed for language gains and cultural immersion. Along with that, you apply for a language rather than a specific program site that we're offering. There's a language policy. Even if you're applying as an absolute beginner, there'll be a little bit of a grace period, but once you're in the country, you're really there to pick up the language and use the language when you're talking with everyone in your cohort, when you're living with a host family, when you're in class every day. So there is a language policy. Most of our students do live with host families, and all students have a language partner. So I think one of the coolest things about the program is the language partner program. And you are paired with more of a peer in the host country. So you're speaking outside of the classroom context freely about anything. So you can use that time to practice vocabulary that's more relevant to what you're trying to learn for your field. You can use that time exploring the city and just learning a little bit more about like what it's like to be a 20-year-old in Japan. It's not perspective that a lot of get. So the language partner program is a really cool piece of the CLS program, I think. So our application is open now. It's open through November 17th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. So that's 5 p.m. on the West Coast. Be aware of that. And it's just about 3 weeks away. It's 3 weeks from yesterday is our application deadline. So it's plenty of time to get one open. But I would recommend starting it now. Looking at the essay questions that are in there, you apply for only one language. You can't apply for multiple languages and just hope for the best. You really do need to pick one language. The one application is enough work on its own. I guarantee you won't want to do 2 applications, so that shouldn't be a problem. The application requires an unofficial transcript, one recommendation form to be completed, 4 short essays. Each of them is 200 to 300 words, so they're all pretty focused and on one topic. And then a personal statement of 500 words where we really expect you to be linking your interest in the language to your long-term goals in terms of your career, your professional and academic goals, how the language fits in with that. And so that's pretty well spelled out on our application in terms of what we're looking for in those essays. Ideal candidates, again, I'll stress, come from all academic disciplines. We're not just looking for those who want to work for foreign service. We're not just looking for those who are interested in just studying a language and doing intense research and becoming faculty someday. We really want creative and diverse applications of these languages. Ideal candidates also come from all backgrounds that are interested in representing the United States abroad. So we really try to shoot to have all 50 states represented, students from all different kinds of institutions, all different communities, all different backgrounds. As a program of the US Department of State, we're really interested in representing the full diversity of the United States abroad in our cohorts. We look for students who are prepared to succeed. Like I said, it's not a typical study abroad experience. It is pretty intense. It's rigorous. It's academically rigorous, and we want to make sure that if you're applying, you understand those challenges and are excited to meet them. That you're motivated to begin or continue learning a critical language to apply to your academic or professional life, and that you're able to make a clear connection to what that means. So I definitely recommend if you're opening an application now, or if you've got one open in progress, make sure that you're working to get a really compelling and specific career goal in mind for using the language. That's like the number one application tip that I can give to anybody is make sure that you're really doing research to connect those long-term goals with the language that you want to study. If you don't know how to do that, connect with faculty, find out what's happening in fields, go to your study abroad office or your competitive awards or fellowships office, depending on what your campus offers. Um, and get help with those essays. Someone will be willing to meet with you and go through how to make sure that you're saying what you think you're saying and saying it the way that you want to say it. We also have a whole YouTube video on application tips where I go through the entire application question by question to talk through kind of what we're looking for in each of those essays along with our selection criteria. All of those materials with some of these other things listed here are at clscholarship.org/apply. That's also where you go to open an application. So there's a lot of good information there and not everybody takes advantage of those. So if you want to have a real good shot of getting the scholarship because it is a competitive award, I recommend taking advantage of the tools that are on our website there. So again, application is open now. The deadline is Tuesday, November 17th at, I'll say 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. The recommendation form is due on November 20th, so there's a couple days after the application deadline's over that we give advisors and professors time to get those recommendations in. You don't have to wait for your recommender to submit in order to submit your application. And in late January, our notification happens in 2 rounds. So by late January, you would know if you made it past the first stage of selection as a semifinalist. And then in March, we notify all of those students who have become finalists for the award. You have a period to either accept or decline the scholarship. So depending on if you've got other opportunities or need to make a decision at that time, there's about 2 weeks that you have to choose whether to accept or decline the scholarship. If students decline, we then promote alternates. So we do name a pretty good list of alternate candidates and go through alternate promotions. And then programs begin in June and again last about 8 to 10 weeks. So if you're interested, tons of information at that website, clscholarship.org/apply. So I tried to tear through that pretty quickly so that there would be ample time to answer any questions that anyone's got today.